Hello, hello, hello. I love being live. We have Melissa here. I'm so excited that we're here. Round two, fight. All right, everyone. So, this is how to master your job search. We're really excited to be here because of a couple reasons. One, it went so well the first time, so let's do it again. We got lots of love, lots of comments, lots of connections. I know, Melissa, it was going off the charts like a few weeks ago for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, but also we wanted to do this because, even though, yes, we both coach in different sectors, we're both great at different things, we want to give back to the community in general because there's so many what we call free things that we can do that's more generalized. I know everyone has their own specific stuff, but generalization for a job search, like there's definitely some really awesome things that you can do if you're not doing. There's some things on LinkedIn that if you don't know LinkedIn's capable of this, we want to really tell you because it's like, why Google this, right? Why? Let's just go straight to it. We're in it. We're both in it. Melissa, go ahead and just tell the audience, just if they don't know you, who you are, what your jam is.
Yes, yes. And I'm super excited, Brianna, to do this round two with you. Yes. So my name's Melissa Grabiner. I'm located in Chicago, born and raised here. I have been in talent acquisition for the last 20 years. I also spent a bunch of years as a senior HR business partner. At my last job, I was at that company for 18 years. I managed a team of 11 direct reports, and we hired about 3,000 employees a year. It was for a biotech pharma Fortune 500 company. I currently work at a company called One Digital where I do talent acquisition consulting. Most of my clients are in San Francisco. They're predominantly like biotech pharma startups, venture backed.
Yeah.
I'm super active on LinkedIn. Brianna, I know that's how you and I met,
Yeah.
and really honored to be doing this with you. I know the first time we did this event, I received a lot of great feedback from our listeners. And, my thought is if we can help even one job seeker, then the next hour is worth our time.
100%, you're giving me the chills over here. So, with that said, because we talk about network equals net worth, right? Please, everyone share your LinkedIn. Let's connect as a community. What you know might not be what someone else knows, and vice versa. We want to also make sure that you ask a lot of questions. We're here to dig. This is not some superficial webinar, right? Like, we need to make sure that we're ready to jam on this and we're really digging because, again, your time's valuable, so is ours. So let's just go into it right now. What are some common mistakes people are making when starting their job search?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few, and I'm glad that we're actually talking about this. I have been a job seeker myself, and I know it can be a daunting process, especially in today's job market, which is ultra competitive. And some of the common mistakes that I see, which can hinder someone's chances of securing a position, are first is like the generic resume and cover letter. I think it's really important that job seekers, especially because it's such a dynamic job market right now, don't use a one size fits all resume and even like a cover letter. Like just as a side note, I'm not a big fan of cover letters. I don't necessarily think that they're useful. Usually for my positions, maybe 5% of the time I receive a cover letter, and I feel job seekers have enough to worry about. But so I just wanted to bring that up in the event that you're thinking like, should I or should I not include a cover letter? But I think with the resume, a lot of job seekers I see use what I would call like a one size fits all approach, and they fail to tailor their resume to the actual job. And I think when you personalize it, for each application, I think that's crucial. And the other thing I see with job searching is a lot of people, I think they go on Indeed, they go on LinkedIn, and they refresh and refresh and refresh. And every time a new job pops up, they go ahead and apply. Networking is by far the best way and the most important way of finding a job. The job I had before my current job, I actually found through my network. And a lot of jobs are filled through referrals and connections. So it's important to engage with industry professionals, even attending events. Utilizing LinkedIn can significantly help with your job search. But don't just rely on job postings, specifically because, as I'm sure you've all seen, there could be one job which could easily have over 2,000 applicants. And personally, if I was a job seeker, I would not even apply to a job if it had 2,000 applicants. I think networking is without question the most imperative thing you can do in your job search. And the other thing I'll say too is just people not preparing for interviews. I interview people all the time, and they don't necessarily know about the company they're interviewing with. They're not understanding really the position. It's important to understand your elevator pitch, understand your background, be able to talk through it, and researching the company that you're interviewing for is imperative. Because when I interview someone and I'll say to them, like, why do you want to work at so and so, depending on who my client is, and when the candidate's like, well, I'm not really sure, like, that is a turnoff to me. So make sure that you prepare for your interviews, and follow up. I get a lot of questions on LinkedIn, people saying to me, I interviewed for a position 2 days ago. I haven't heard anything back. Is it appropriate for me to follow up? 100% follow up. It shows that you care about the job. It shows that you are thoughtful in your approach. It shows professionalism and even appreciation for the opportunity to have had the chance to interview. So those are what I would say are my top things that come to mind in terms of job searching that I think are so important. But Brianna, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm over here ferociously writing, and I hope the audience is as well. So give me a yes in the comments if you're ferociously writing. But I want to go over a few things. So you talked about the cover letter. We've all agreed. I think we talked about this last time for a teensy bit. Like, cover letters are definitely a thing of the past. However, you should be connecting with the people that are the places you want to work with. So therefore, instead of a cover letter, you need like 3 sentences or so. It's like basically, why you, why them? Why should they talk to you? Why should they hire you? I think if you start thinking about maybe even being the hiring manager for the role you want, then that might trigger something of like, wait a minute, like, duh, just because I send someone my resume doesn't mean that they get it, doesn't mean that they understand, doesn't mean I'm super direct. So yeah, I definitely want to touch on that. And I want to hear on this one. So stats. So I've been in recruiting for the last 16 years. I know that all companies tend to only hire 5 to 11% of applicants. Do you see that as well? Do you have a different stat?
No, I absolutely see that. I could tell you for the roles I recruit for my clients, a lot of them are employee referrals. A lot of them are people that we find through our own networks. They're not necessarily applicants. And I want to mention something here that I think is going to be inspirational to everybody on this call. I found my current job by reaching out to the CEO of my company on LinkedIn. Okay. If I didn't do that, there's no way I would be at my job. And I've been here for 3 years and I'm very happy at my company. Interestingly enough, my company wasn't hiring. I didn't see a job posting for my job. What happened was when I was laid off from my previous job, I literally took out a piece of paper and wrote down between 20 and 25 companies that I was targeting. I went on LinkedIn, I did my research, I found out who the decision makers were. And depending on the size of the company, depended if I sent a note to like the head of TA or like the CHRO or the CEO. Well, my company is a smaller company. And I found out who the CEO was. I sent her a note with my resume. It had a couple of sentences in terms of why I was interested in her company, what I could bring to the table. She got right back to me. And 2 weeks later, I had a job offer in my hand. So when job seekers reach out to me, and they do this all the time, they'll say, is it okay if I reach out to like someone directly on LinkedIn? 100%, 100%. I think
Why
that
it exists.
first of all, that separates you from even other people that have applied, but it shows that you have like you're being aggressive in your job search. And I love when candidates reach out to me on LinkedIn. It helps me because I'm looking at so many resumes a day. Those are the people that always stand out. And, when I reached out to all those CEOs, not everyone got back to me. And that's what I expected. Not everyone is very active on LinkedIn. Not everyone really wants to reply. But I thought if I can get just a few of those people replying to me, it's going to be worth my effort. And like I said, it worked for me.
I love that. So, oh my God, I'm going to tangent. This is why I'm writing down. First of all, let's go back to aggression equals confidence. I think that people like there's some words just like selfish is now self-care, right? It's like you have to take care of yourself before anything. Aggression has a negative connotation when used incorrectly, but in theory, it shows you're confident. It shows that you know what you want, you know what you do, you know what you specialize in, and so I really love that you brought that up. Love that. Another trend that I want to make sure people realize is what's going on in a very crowded competitive market. So what we saw was typically 2,000 applicants all the time. And the reason why we're starting to see that is because LinkedIn does not give you the ability to store your job descriptions if you're not hiring, right? So like if you have a job posting, you pay for them regardless if you use them or not. So companies are one, just posting jobs even though they're not hiring. Let's get that out of the way. And then two, on the side, a lot of companies are not even posting their jobs for a couple of reasons. One,
Mhm.
because it's crowded, two, because it's expensive. And then also they would rather hunt or go through their networks, like kind of like a backdoor reference, their networks, than post and sift through resumes. Because again, statistics show only up to 11% of applicants get hired.
Yeah, and I want to mention something too is that if you see a role at a company that you're interested in, see if you know anyone at that company. And if you do, send that person a note and let them know, hey, this is Melissa. I just applied to a talent acquisition director position. Do you know who I could send my resume to? Do you know who the hiring manager is? It always helps to have a connection within the company. Now, that's not to say that you won't get a job if you don't know someone at the company,
Sure.
but it always helps to have that connection, and you can find this information out directly on LinkedIn.
Yes. And don't forget, you can add 100 connections a week.
Yep.
And you should 100%, like your job
Yep.
search should be your job. Regardless if you're actively looking, passively looking, because there's a difference, right? There's a difference between laid off, fired versus, oh, I could maybe want a different job or burnt out. There's all those different reasons why we look for jobs, but you should be adding 100 connections every single week. And then when they accept you, because you can see who accepts you, go in every 2 days and send them a message. I
Right.
actually had someone the other day. I want to know if you get this. I had someone the other day send me a video being like, hey, like, through Loom, because I'm a big Loom user. Hey, I'm so happy to connect with you. I connected with you because X, Y, Z. And I was like, I got to talk to this person. I don't even know why I want to talk to this person, but I want to because it was just like not everybody's doing it. It was a personal touch, and that person to me showed that they cared enough to really be a part of my network, not
Yeah,
just a stat.
I love it. I get a lot of audio messages on
Yes,
LinkedIn. So
love that.
instead of someone
Mhm.
writing like this long paragraph or two,
Mhm.
they'll send me, and I find that so creative. And
Yes.
it's almost easier for me to just click play and then hear what they have to say. But the job seekers to me that stick out aren't the ones that, again, apply to a job and sit back and wait for something to happen. We have to be aggressive in our job search. I like when candidates are aggressive with me. Those are the people that always stick out to me. And in my opinion, you're doing your recruiters a favor. I think a lot of recruiters have so much on their plates now with a lot of companies that have laid off recruiting staff, and then the recruiters at the company are resuming that work. Anything you can do to make the recruiter's life easier is a win-win as well. So when people reach out to me directly, I'm like, thank you for reaching out to me, because even though they applied to the job, I can't
Mhm.
guarantee I was going to read their resume depending on how many resumes there were.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
something I was doing a webinar yesterday of essentially how can you be an ally with a recruiter? How can you be their teammate, right? Because you make a great point. First of all, I want everyone to know that what I don't know, 95% of companies use recruiters, whether it's internal or external. They're using them. Like hiring normally isn't just being done by like a founder or a hiring manager. So know that there's normally a recruiter somewhere, somehow on the other side, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of a tangent, but you need to really, I think the problem with people that are doing their jobs is they're not thinking like a recruiter. And it's hard to think like a recruiter. You're not a recruiter, right? So, but you have to put yourselves in those shoes. And that's why having a recruiter, asking them questions, what's trend? What should I be doing? How do I appear? Is it clear on what I do? Which that's where I want to dig. Okay. So as we know, LinkedIn optimization is crucial, right? And we talk about that with resumes. So in my opinion, like that goes hand in hand, right? Um, job titles. Job titles are so important. If your job title is not in a proved LinkedIn job title, you're probably not being seen as much on the recruiter side. So what I want people to realize is what LinkedIn recruiter looks like. So if I'm looking for, I don't know, a sales engineer, I hope your job title sales engineer, but here's the problem, Melissa, and I want to hear how you want to combat this is so many companies have so many different job descriptions, or they have certain teams that you're working on, and people put that in their job title. But I feel from a recruiter's perspective that's doing them a disservice, because now if I'm searching by job title, that person isn't coming up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think I'm so glad you brought up LinkedIn Recruiter, and I want to share something on this call that I think a lot of people don't know about. So, what Brianna is referring to, and I use LinkedIn Recruiter all the time for my positions, is that recruiters that have what's called a LinkedIn Recruiter license have the ability to search the database for virtually anybody. And what we are able to do is put in all these different keywords, like you can put in various job titles, locations, industries, levels. And what happens then, based on the search criteria that the recruiter inputs in the system, LinkedIn then spits out a bunch of profiles that are a fit. So it's really important. And I want to as kind of like a side mention, if you're applying to a position, make sure that you have on your resume, first of all, the job title in some way, put that job title in your resume, because the chance of you getting pulled by that recruiter is significantly greater. But look at the keywords in the job description and try to put that somewhere in your resume, because the chances of us as recruiters using a recruiter license finding you is that much greater, because again, LinkedIn is pulling profiles of people who match the search criteria that we're entering in the system. So if I'm looking for a medical director, which is actually one of my current roles, and I'm using the title medical director, I need to see somewhere on that resume or profile, I should say, medical director, because if not, you're not going to get pulled into my search.
Yes. Okay. So I see Julie's comment. It says the job titles I'm seeking and listed by the company as I'm seeking are not approved LinkedIn list. Then what? Here's my thought process. And I will answer this, but my thought process is this, and pick me in the comments if you want to roll with this. I think we should all do another LinkedIn live. And I think we should share screen LinkedIn Recruiter, because although we can talk about it, right? And you and I both use it, so we get it, right? But it might be super confusing. And I would love if someone, I think we need like 3 people to be the guinea pig on this. We'll share screen and we'll walk them through. Are they coming up in our search? If they're looking for a certain role, certain position, will a recruiter ever find them? So pick me in the comment if you want us if you want to be live with us and you want us to look at your LinkedIn and you want us to show you what it looks like on LinkedIn Recruiter. I think it's a really powerful thing. So go ahead, Melissa, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so when I do my individual coaching with people, I always talk about the LinkedIn Recruiter license, in that most people that aren't recruiters don't know about this license that we have.
They don't know what the capabilities are. Yeah, for sure.
Why would you? You don't have a recruiter license. And I know that companies pay a lot of money for these licenses. And I've hired a ton of people that I have found through what I call proactive sourcing measures, by looking into the database and going deep and using all different search criteria for the right sort of people to pop up. It's very eye-opening when I explain this to job seekers, because you hear a lot about, well, make sure that your LinkedIn profile has the same skills listed as the job description. Part of the reason is because the chances of you popping up are going to be that much greater if your profile somewhere, even your resume, has those skills that's listed in the job description.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm getting so excited because I was going to ask you. I know you coach on this, right? And we'll get into that too, because I have a lot of things to say there. But to answer Tammy's question, does LinkedIn Recruiter scan current and past job titles? Here's the thing: only if we want it to.
Right.
So there is a button that says, again, like, let's just use your medical director. By the way, if you're a medical director, Melissa might need you, so hit her up. She gets to pick. You can pick current medical director or current and past. And honestly, depending on the recruiter, will depend on what they want. So you tell them, are you looking for past as well, or are you looking for current?
Past. Totally past. If someone has previously worked as a medical director, that shows me they have medical director experience. Absolutely.
Yep. Whereas you're a seasoned vet at this point. Whereas a junior recruiter might say, well, no, because I want someone that wants to be a medical director. They might not think that broad like you do. So honestly, like, you could ask like 10 recruiters and they're going to tell you something different. So I love that question. And I love that thought process. Let's see. We got Julie. The job. Oh yeah. Sorry. We already answered that one. So thanks. We're going to go through the pick me, because I think that that's really valuable. And Melissa, I love that you do that in your coaching. I actually did that this morning as well, where I'm like, let me just show you, like, your job titles are doing you a disservice, because nobody knows what that is. And the thing is, it's like, well, but my company, that's what they call us. Well, there's a part of me that wants to say your company is very strategic in picking a very niche role that no one's
Right,
going to find you.
right, right.
Love that. All right, we have Jim. Let's get to this question. With 11%, does it make to spend so much time on tailoring resume with ATS words? I think I know what you're saying here. So if you're, and Jim, feel free to if I'm not getting it right here. I'm assuming you mean you want to tailor your resume to make sure that it's coming up in the applicant tracking system. Is that what we're doing? And I think, Melissa, to answer that, like we've been talking about, of course it helps. We're not saying that no one gets hired by applying, but we
Right.
also are saying, like, more likely than not, obviously almost 90% of people get hired by their network, by a referral, by reaching out, right? But at the end of the day, you do have to send your resume in. So your resume still has to be pretty on point.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think everyone on this call probably knows what an applicant tracking system is also known as an ATS. Basically,
Mhm.
companies use applicant tracking systems as like a depository of their job postings and all the candidates who apply, and we're able to do like different screening and reporting metrics. So every company that I've ever worked with, and I'm a consultant now, so I've worked with various clients in the last 3 years, they all use an applicant tracking system. And I would venture to say that the vast majority of companies that are doing any sort of like hiring will, unless they're doing like these one-off positions that only maybe a couple times a year they're hiring. But I will tell you as a recruiter, like I'm always looking at the candidates who apply to my jobs. But when someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn, I think that is such a great thing that I will always, review their candidacy and their backgrounds and engage in a discussion with them, probably more so than I will people that just apply. I mean, I think anyone, and I know we talked about this already, but anyone that takes the time to find out who perhaps the decision maker is and
Mhm.
engages with that recruiter, that's a great thing. And I can't think of most recruiters that would disagree with that.
Yeah, because you're making it easy for us.
Exactly.
So the key to ask yourself, look yourself in the mirror and be honest, are you the easy candidate? Are you transparent? Are you
Right.
upfront? Are you responsive? Like,
Right.
do you know your star story? Do you know the why you is all super important. What I want to get out too is job description. So going back to the actual job description, here's the thing. First of all, some companies are great at job descriptions. Some companies suck at it. Some it's like a want list. Some it's like too little. But the bottom line is we're getting better at job descriptions because a lot of people are using ChatGPT. So
Right.
we need to also, as you're going through your job search, use ChatGPT. So you're going to put up the job description, and I know that there's other sites to do this, unless I want to hear yours. But go into ChatGPT. Here's the job description. Pull out the key things that I must have, and then now you have to reverse it and be like, is that on my LinkedIn and is that on my
Right.
resume? Because if these key ingredients, look at it as you're baking. It's very precise, right? If these key ingredients are not get being optimized through your LinkedIn and resume, you're not winning. And then also, let's think about this real quick. And then going back to what my question was, let's just say you apply for a job because that doesn't mean that they're not going to find you, because what is happening more and more is recruiters are now also going through their applicant tracking system and sourcing through that, because now it's kind of an easier thing to do. These are all the people that have already been interested. So your resume can still be found, maybe not today, but maybe in a couple years. And that's all like super important.
That's a great catch and a great call out. Every applicant tracking system that I've ever worked with has really good reporting capabilities. And I think what a lot of recruiters do is instead of kind of like reinventing the wheel, and I've done this too, I'll look
Yeah.
in the ATS, I'll generate a report and see who that's in the platform
Mhm.
would be a good match for the role. Very often, that's how I find my candidates, and I reach out to those folks, and it's a real simple. Hey, this is Melissa Grabiner from XYZ company. I found you in our applicant tracking system. We actually have a new position that we think you'd be a great fit for. Here's the job description. Let me know if you're interested. So it's
Mhm.
always a good idea to apply directly to a role, even if for no other reason than you never know when your resume is not going to come up by a recruiter search, right? And that actually happened to me a couple of years ago. I was contacted by a recruiter because they were looking to fill a TA director position, and I happened to be in their database from like a year and a half
Mhm.
prior. I applied to one of their jobs.
Yeah.
Happened to me.
See, love that. I'm getting chills over here. So
Mhm.
now I think there's something gold too that I ferociously wrote down earlier. Is when you were reaching out to companies, you were trying to decide, hey, based on the size is who I reach out to. Can you dig in a little bit more? Because
Yes.
everyone's always like, who do I reach out to?
Yes.
Tell us.
So here's an example. If I was applying to Microsoft, I would not reach out to the CEO of Microsoft. Okay.
Although
First
that'd
of
be pretty
all,
cool. I want to get on that yacht.
yeah. I mean, this is someone who leads like this multi-trillion global organization, right? A large company typically has a lot of departments. So what I would do if it was a company like Microsoft, I would reach out to either I would because a company like Microsoft, they're going to have 200 recruiters depending on like the business unit and the positions, right? And
Mhm.
so if I wasn't able to find who I thought would be the best recruiter or the most applicable recruiter, I would probably reach out to someone very high up in the organization that works in talent acquisition. So maybe this is like the VP of TA or someone high up that works in HR. The company of my size at the time was 50 employees. So I knew that it would make sense to reach out directly to the CEO because it's a much, much smaller company. So I think you have to, I think it depends on the size of the company in terms of who you reach out to. And there's no like right or wrong answer, but I think the larger the company, the less you should reach out to like a CEO. You should try to reach out to maybe someone who's like a head of a department if you
Yep.
can't figure out who exactly the recruiter is. And then, of course, I would say, for an example like Microsoft, see if you have a common connection of someone that works at Microsoft or you know of someone that knows of someone that works at Microsoft. A lot of times, what happens to me is people reach out to me on LinkedIn. And they'll see where I worked before. I worked at a company called Takeda, which is a very large global Fortune 500
Mhm.
biotech company. All the time, people still reach out to me on LinkedIn. I haven't been there for 4 years. This happened a couple of days ago with a friend of my husband's. I'm interested in a job at Takeda. Do you still have any contacts at that company that you could reach out to? Well, I don't really talk to anyone from the company anymore, but so he remembered that I work there. So even if you can think about if you're interested in a company and you know someone that used to work there, like it doesn't hurt to ask the question because maybe I did know the decision maker. It turns out I didn't, but just any sort of commonality you can find, just go for that because it's the chances of you actually getting like looked at is greater if you have like a connection or a mutual connection versus reaching out to like someone like what I did. However, I'll say that, you know, when I reached out to the CEO, it worked for me. And that's why I'm sharing this story because it could work for you too. And again, not every CEO got back to me. And I was expecting that. I wasn't expecting every CEO to get back to me. A lot of people that are really, really high up, they have someone that manages their social media accounts. I know a lot of like CEOs like actually outsource that. But my company was small enough that I was like, you know what, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and I'm going to be aggressive. And it worked out beautifully.
I love that. So I'm itching over here to share screen. We did not set up this recording to do that. So again, unless I'm already signing you up for number 3 on this one, please put in the comments number 3 if you're here for that, because there are so many great ways that you can find exactly who you want. So I'm definitely on your page. 50 or lower, you can still go to C-suites. Whether or not you go directly to CEO, it all depends on your department, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd
Right.
probably go straight to the CEO, right? But as it gets a little bit larger, and maybe even with 50, I'm going to put in the word talent. If there's a talent acquisition team, yeah, you got to reach out to them. Or recruiter is another one, right? So I am going to go, I might even go to Sourcer. So to your Microsoft thing, because they're so massive, I actually might go to the head of sourcing. So something that not everyone knows is sometimes recruiter jobs are siloed and there's different titles. So there's talent acquisition, right? So there could be head of TA, there could be head of recruiting, and there actually now can be head of sourcing. So think about this. If someone
Mhm.
is a head of sourcing for I don't know, let's just say the financial services, right? You're in financial services. I'm going to go straight to that sourcer because you better bet that a sourcer wants people to come to them as opposed to them hunting for you. So
Right.
that's also something going back to, are you the easy candidate? Are you making this super simple for them? And another thing, and I love this, is the second connections. So if you are also looking, you can see one who's a connection. And this, again, this should be a share screen. So I'm dying. There's an easy way to look to see who your first connections are. But an also interesting thing is second connection, because like you said, Melissa, you're not at that company anymore. But what if the hiring manager was your bestie and we just didn't
Right.
know? You
Right.
know, you don't know.
I always go back to you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Mhm.
So, Brianna, I wanted to bring this up because I see a question in the comments, and I
Yeah.
get this question all the time from candidates. What is your view on the open to work green banner? I have
Oh
to
God.
ask.
I get in trouble for this one. I hate it. I don't like it. I know. But it's because I'm also in contingency recruiting where I am being hired. I'm getting paid a premium, right? And I hear all the time from hiring managers, and also I'm in tech. So I'm in an interesting sector, right? I hear all the time from hiring managers, I only want passive candidates. And is that infuriating? Yes. So don't shoot the messenger. Okay. There is a really cool way to do open to work, and that's behind the scenes, where all the recruiters on LinkedIn Recruiter can see you're open to work. We can see what you want, but you don't have, that green banner around your face. Now, with that said, I know lots of people who that really ignited their job search because their network got to see that they were open to work. So I have a fine line here, but from my recruiter perspective, I like to pitch a candidate that not everybody has access to, because I think in general, people want what they can't have.
Okay.
But let me hear. I know. It's okay. We don't have to agree.
Okay. So I understand from your perspective, based on what you do for a
Yeah.
living, I understand why you feel the way you do. My thought in the green banner is a little bit differently. And I get asked this question all the
Mhm.
time by job seekers. Okay. So my thought is, and I love you, Brianna,
Okay,
but
go
I'm
for it.
just
Let me
going to
go for
respectfully
it.
disagree. Okay.
Go for it.
So my thought is this: if I'm a recruiter and I'm looking to fill my job, why would I not look for someone that I know is looking for one?
Mhm.
A lot of people come to me and they say, well, does it make me look desperate to have it on my profile? In my opinion, there's nothing desperate about telling people you're looking for a job. A job is something most of us need to survive, right? And so
100%.
I also think LinkedIn added this feature for a reason. I will never personally penalize a candidate for having the green banner on their profile. My hiring managers at my clients, they don't necessarily care. And I'm not in the tech sector. That's
Mhm.
different than
Sure,
your sector.
sure.
My hiring managers don't care about that. They just want the right people for their roles.
Mhm.
So I'm a big fan of the green banner. I've seen a lot of contentious sort of conversations on LinkedIn around this. I think people either feel one way or the other. What
Sure.
I would say to everyone on this call is do what's best for you and do what you're the most comfortable with.
Mhm.
If you're not comfortable having it on your banner and you feel like either it's a shame, which there's no reason to ever feel ashamed if you're looking for a job. We've
Totally.
all been there before. But if you feel like ashamed or you just don't want people to know, then don't use the green banner. If you feel that you don't care, if you think it's going to help you increase your chances of finding a job, wear the green banner loud and proud. You have to do what is most comfortable for you. You're going to hear different thoughts from
Yep.
different recruiters about this. Obviously, like you and I have a very different take on
Sure.
it. You have to do what you're comfortable doing.
100%. And it shouldn't feel like the scarlet letter, right? I'm also a giant advocate for A/B testing. So have it on for 2 weeks. Take it
Right.
off if it's not working. You know what I
Right.
mean? Again, it always goes back to what's working, what's not working. If something is not working, change it, period.
Exactly.
And now it's not like a 1 day thing, right? It's not like you're gonna A/B
Right.
testing for one. For me, if I A/B test things, I'm gonna do it for 2 weeks. That's my general thought process. Depending on what it is, I'll go up to 90 days with it. But it all depends on what I'm testing. So I always give things 2 weeks for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and then what's interesting on the other side, I actually just had a hiring manager tell me recently, "Hey, you know what? I'm tired of passive candidates. They're exhausting. Give me people actively looking." and I need someone to start in 2 weeks. So there's also like the other side to things. So there's always like an exceptions to the rules. There's always the rule. But again, this is something like to your thing. LinkedIn doesn't really just do things for shits and giggles, right? Like they have data behind things. So it's and Julie's question is the I only want passive candidates in certain industries. I don't really know.
Right.
Like my like we're skewed, right? You kind of live in the industry that you live in, right? This is why you A/B test things. Now, here's what I will tell you that I have a fine line against is seeing people post on LinkedIn saying, I've had 100 interviews, I haven't gotten an offer. Well, you probably don't want to announce that. How do you feel about that?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I absolutely agree with you. I can't tell you how many posts that I see from people either posting about that or they get so frustrated that they're bashing a particular company.
Yes.
And
Yes.
here's the thing, like, I know ghosting is a huge thing. Trust me, I see posts about this. People reach out to me, multiple people daily about this. I posted about this myself yesterday, and the post
Mm.
went kind of crazy. I am not a big fan, obviously, of ghosting,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't air your grievances on LinkedIn because what might happen is that you might have a prospective employer say, oh, I'm interested in Melissa. Her resume looks good. Let me check out her LinkedIn profile and kind of see what she's about. And then they look at my past posts. And, I had a good friend last week had a very negative interview experience at a very, very large, well-known company. And he posted about it and he listed the company name. And I was
Mhm.
like, take it off now because you're actively interviewing
Yeah.
for jobs. And if I saw that in a candidate, I would run the other way. So talk to your spouse, talk to your friends, talk to your parents,
Mhm.
talk to your children. Don't air your grievances and talk negatively about any company on LinkedIn. It's not going to help you.
100%. I love that you said venting. You absolutely, whether I get it, get a coach, practice. Like, let's do this. So here's something, and I will say, and yeah, I'm biased, but like I've had a coach for 6 years, and yeah, now I'm a coach too. And you coach in a lot of these things as well. But before it used to be that if you don't have a bachelor's degree, don't apply. That's no longer the case, right? But I will tell you this: do not enter a job interview with not having practiced. Period. Whether or not you get professional help or you have a colleague or you have a friend or a
100%.
spouse, you may not enter this job. They are far and few between. You need to take advantage of it and you need to have a practice. Now, when things were really great, I would actually encourage candidates to practice with their least favorite company. But now things are a little rocky. So it's like, don't waste an interview. You need practice,
Right.
please. Yes.
Right.
And
Have
role
your
play. Mhm.
Yes, make sure you know your elevator pitch, what you can bring to the table. I think it's important that you very much read that job description thoroughly to see what the company is looking for. And then you should be able to talk to why you think you're a fit for the job based on your experience. How could you solve the company's problems? You want to give any company a reason to hire you. And the more they think you're a fit to the job description, the better chances that they'll move you forward if you can prove that.
Love that. So people are hiring for one of two things. They're solving a problem or they're building a product, which
Right.
is essentially
Mhm.
the same thing, right? So you have to really lay it out there. How are you going to do that? And then something that I want to know how you coach people on this is hard skills get you in, soft skills get you hired. So how do you train people on that? How does that come through?
Yeah. So I want to tell you what happened to me a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. So actually, it was about 7 years ago. I hired someone, I was looking to hire a talent acquisition coordinator, and I hired him literally 30 minutes into the interview, and he worked on my team for 7 years. He
Wow.
had 4 promotions in 7 years. He had the soft skills I was looking for. He was kind. He was motivated. I could tell he was hardworking. He came prepared to the interview. He was humble. And I thought he would be someone that would be very, very easy to work with. I knew I could teach him the job, right? You could teach most people the job unless it's like a computer scientist or an
Sure.
engineer or a doctor. Most jobs, and I actually posted about this on LinkedIn the other day as well. Most jobs you can be taught.
Mhm.
I can't necessarily teach someone to have integrity or teach someone to be self-motivated. But that's why I ended up hiring this person. And I would rather hire someone that has those right soft skills and train them than hire someone who doesn't have those soft skills that could maybe hit the ground running faster. I can't emphasize enough the importance of being easy to work with, kind to work with, because most skills can be taught.
Okay. Getting the chills over here. I'm loving this. Okay. And what I want the listeners to do, put 1 to 3 of your top soft skills in here because there's lots of different ones, right? Everyone's like, what soft skill am I great at? Let's own it and let's put it in there and be proud, be confident. But wondering, how do you put your soft skills on your resume and LinkedIn? Do you just basically say, these are my soft skills? Like, how do you recommend people do that?
I really get that through an interview or through a phone call with someone. It's, I don't see sections on resumes that say highly motivated, good communicator. Like if I see those generic sort of terms,
Mhm.
anyone can say they're a good communicator. Anyone can say they're self-motivated. Anyone can say that they're empathetic. I personally, for me, I have a good judge of character. I've been interviewing people for 20 years. I can
Mhm.
tell within a 30-minute conversation about someone's character. I've learned to do that because I've been doing this for so long. But please tell me your thoughts on this. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
missing
no,
it.
it's really hard. So it's like, and again, like I'm a big advocate for ChatGPT, right? So it's like, hey, I want it to be known that I'm highly motivated. I love that one, right? So like I'm highly motivated. Here's my resume. Can you give me some like lingo to not just have to spell it out, but to show that I'm motivated? So I'm going to show, oh, okay, I'm going to show my ROI. So like essentially going back to so that's return on investment. Everyone wants to know, how you can move the needle at the company, essentially how you make, their stock go up. But it's like, how can I put forward my results? So if you're results driven, you don't have to say you're results driven. You're just going to put what your results are
Yeah.
at each company, right? So it's like, hey, I increased profit by 16.4% because of XYZ, of like whatever you did. So that's why while you're at your job, and hopefully people are going through a job search while employed, but I know that's not always the case, especially lately. But hopefully while you're going through, you're having this growth and success journal that I really, really, really swear by, where on a regular basis, you're putting in what you've done. Because what you don't want to happen is all of a sudden your performance management comes up or it's time to interview and you're like, shoot, what did I what did I
Mhm.
do? What did I do? And I was having this issue like with some of my employees because we were moving so fast. We're a startup, right? So they forgot what they did well a week ago. So definitely 3 months ago, they're not going to remember all the great things that they did. So you as individuals, I would recommend a growth and success journal. What
Yeah.
do you do well?
Yeah. I remember when I managed a team, I had a large team at one point. I think at one time I had 24 direct reports, but then
Woo!
yeah, which was crazy. But then when I was
Nice.
able to like offload half my team, when I had 11, I literally would, for every single person, I had a file in my computer. And then every time there was a success, every time there was something that I wanted to bring up in the review, I didn't have to scramble over a year's worth of work. I would say do the same thing for yourself. And I do that for my clients now is I have a folder in my email called personal. That's the name of the file. And every time I hear like a kudos email from a manager or something positive happened, I stick it in that personal folder. So by the time it comes for like my
Uh-huh.
review, I don't have to scramble in my mind and think, what were my successes over the last year? It was already there right there. So, and the other thing I want to mention, which is kind of along the same lines, is as a job seeker, you always have to be your own best advocate.
100%.
Okay. No
Mhm.
one is going to advocate for you. This ties in a little bit with when you are actually offered a position and you have the whole salary piece come up. Always be your own best advocate because no one's going to advocate for you the way you're going to advocate for yourself.
Yep,
Always
and
be
no.
your biggest cheerleader.
Yep,
Mhm.
and that's hard. That's
Mhm.
really hard to do, which honestly, negotiation and confidence is almost like a whole other, webinar, to be honest, because it's such a big, heavy topic. I do want to address the question that Tammy had on here, which is how do you avoid ageism, on LinkedIn? Like you want to show that you know what you do, that you have work history, but you also don't want to appear or feel old. And I get that, by the way. Now, obviously, that's discrimination, but I will tell you, people have biases all the time. So we need to combat that, right? So, what would, yeah, what's your advice for Tammy?
So I would say that, and when I coach people all the time, I would say really for anyone, when you put your education and your background on your resume, don't put the year you graduated. I don't think it matters the year that you graduated. If a company is looking to hire a position that a degree is required, just
Mhm.
put your degree. Put where you went to school, what your major was. You don't need to put the year you graduated, because anyone in their mind can think, okay, well, most people graduate from college at 21, and if they graduated in
Yep.
1978, they do a simple math formula, they'll most likely get it right in terms of ballpark how old you are. So I would, first of all, for everybody on this call, there's absolutely no reason to put the year you graduated college. I can tell you that for me, I'm 52 years old, and ageism is a real thing. And as much as there are laws protecting people over the age of 40, there are companies that don't want to hire people that are older. It's just the reality of the world that we live in. So what I coach job seekers, and like for me, like on my resume, I don't have my job prior to the job I worked at for 18 years. And something to keep in mind too is the experience that I had 20 years ago isn't even relevant anymore, because
Yeah.
technologies change. Things change so quickly in this world that things that I did 20 years ago aren't necessarily going to help a company now. What matters more is my most recent experience. That's what I think is most important.
So is your general rule based off of the years or based off of the amount of jobs?
Well, the amount of jobs is it's not a one size fits all. You know,
Sure.
I've seen people that have, for the last 20 years, they've had a new job every 2 years, right?
Right. Mhm.
But usually companies will start looking at like the first job you list from graduating college, if you went to college,
Mhm.
and then they might be able in their mind to do some mental math. I think it depends how long you've worked at the companies.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a one size fits all, but would love your thoughts.
Yeah, my thought, I mean, just because you know how quickly we look at resumes and LinkedIn profiles, like one, I'm not going to go back more than 10 years because to your point, technology's changed too much. It doesn't even really matter, right?
Mhm.
You know? So like, but if you're like, well, wait a minute, my big thing, you know, happened to be at year 11. So put that up in your summary. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be on there.
right.
And then also, I'm never going to go past 3 jobs. So even if they are what is considered job hoppy for whatever industry I'm in, I'm never going to go past 3 jobs. I pretty much make my decision off of that. So that's something to be said on there. And then going back to why we want to share screen, and to Tammy's point, is there's a lot of recruiters that will actually put in the date that someone got their degree. So that is something people on LinkedIn Recruiter can search by. So if it's not on there at all, you'll still come up. So I think that's something to note on how we're searching.
Great call out.
Yeah, love
Mhm.
that. Oh my god, we are, like, almost to time, and I think
I have questions.
I love this, I love this. Well, let's answer this. What to do if you really weren't keeping track of too many stats for your growth and success journal and don't have access to those numbers anymore, can't go back to find them? Okay, so what are your thoughts on that?
I don't wanna say embellish or improvise, but if so you don't wanna put something on your resume where you're gonna be asked about it and you can't talk it through.
Right.
So if you can't think of any sort of quantifiable figures, quantifiable results, I don't want anyone to be in a situation where they put it on their resume and then they're asked about it and they're flabbergasted because they're like, "Oh my god," and they're tongue-tied.
Embarrassed. Yeah.
You don't wanna be ever in that situation, nor do you wanna start a job under false pretenses.
Right.
Brianna, you're the expert here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? You know, so there's one or two ways to do it. One, what if you go back to your manager and colleague? Be like, "Hey, you know what? God, I'm having a struggle right now. I'm having a mindset struggle. I feel like I'm not feeling successful. Can you work through like what do you feel like I've accomplished in the last 3 months?" Just ask that question, you know, like work it out. But also you can generalize things too. And or you might want to say, look, I don't remember, right? And you're not going to say this to actual anybody, but like internally, you say to yourself, now that I know better, I'm going to do better. A lot of times, dwelling and trying to think too much in the past is going to mess you up in your mindset. So I think it depends to the person's question. It depends on what do you need these numbers for? If we need these numbers for because our resume and LinkedIn, you got to go back in time and find some of that, or at least average it out. So think about this. It's like, hey, I don't know exactly how much money I saved the company, but I know on average I did really, really well. Or, hey, I know that this quarter was better than last quarter. So you have to have something, even if it's not exact data, although, of course, data wins all battles. But I mean, you got to average something out. And to your point, it's like, look, we're not in the business of lying, but we're in the business of, obviously you're good at your job. You just don't have data. So we're going to come up with something to talk about. But you have to, again, to Melissa's point, you have to feel strong about it. And that's why you practice it, because you don't want to get caught with your pants down on some of these stats. And they're like, actually, I know someone else from this company and their stats are off. It's
Right.
like, that's why it's like, talk to people. This is why networking is so powerful. Talk to your colleagues. Don't be afraid of that. And even if you're not actively looking, who cares? Just say it's for your own mindset purposes. They don't have to know why you need that data.
Yes. I want to bring up one thing here. I know
Yeah.
we're a little pressed for time. I want to bring up the networking topic, because I get asked a lot of questions about this by job seekers. So networking, I can't express how important networking is. I found my previous job, my 2 jobs ago, I found through someone in my network. If I didn't reach out to him, I wouldn't have known about the job and I never would have worked there. So don't rely on, again, refreshing your browser every 5 minutes for a new posting to come up. Network. When I lost my job after 18 years, I literally took out a piece of paper and I wrote down everybody I knew. I had my husband do the same. I wrote down past coworkers, friends, relatives, and I let everybody know I was looking for a new job. Because what happens is the people you reach out to might not know something, but they might know someone who knows about something.
Mhm.
Right? And so
Yep.
the most effective way of finding a job, and statistics will prove this time and time again, is by networking. LinkedIn is a great platform to do this. I have built my network considerable through the LinkedIn platform. So if you are looking for a job, and I would say even when you're not looking for a job, network
Thank
then,
you.
because
Yep.
you don't want to start to scramble and be in a panic mode because, like, oh my God, I lost my job and I don't really have a big network. You should always be networking. And the other thing I want to say about networking that I think a lot of people get wrong, but it's really important I say this, is that networking isn't about what someone can do for you. Networking is about what you can do for that person as well. It is a give and a take and a give and a take.
Mhm.
Okay. Make sure that if you are networking or you're on a call with someone or you reach out, you say, is there anyone in my network who I can introduce you to? Is there anything that I can help you with? Can I ever be a resource for you? Networking is about a mutually beneficial relationship.
100%. And I think what's a lot of people don't think about is their current network. So I've noticed that people are, even with business development, as I'm coaching agency owners, they're like, oh, they're trying to find more and more connections. Well, yeah, you should always try to find more connections, but let's not forget about your current connections. Like, everyone wants to reinvent this wheel that doesn't really have to be reinvented.
Right.
And I also think that you can do this in a really genuine way. I don't remember if I talked about this last time, but I'm bringing it up again just in case. I know someone that was looking for a chief product officer role, and this person ended up getting his entire network together, sent out a very genuine email that I thought nailed it. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's why you're being contacted. You're in my network. We have affected each other's lives in some way, right? So I want to catch you up on what's going with me. Here's my asks. Can I help you? Here's what I can do for you. Like, feel free to look at my network. I'm happy to be there for you. And by the way, in case you know anyone, here's my pitch and what I'm looking for. Made it very straightforward, very heartfelt, and again, had that the two-way streak. I thought it was beautiful.
Networking is so important. And I think so many people don't really understand this. I think here's the other thing I would say about networking. I realize that not everyone is outgoing or an extrovert, right? And so networking for people could be really hard. The way I look at networking is almost like you're kind of meeting maybe a new friend. I've been to a lot of networking events in the past where it's like you have 2 hours and there's this room full of people and you're supposed to mingle. And I'm an extrovert, but I could absolutely understand why it could be a daunting thought for people. Strike conversations, find a commonality. maybe some of these people could be your friend. It's just an innocent, harmless conversation, but you never
Mhm.
know where that person could potentially help you down the line. That is why networking, I can't stress enough how important it is in a job search.
And going to that on how like kind of an easier way to network is, let's just say, like going to Melissa's point where she had like 20 companies or so that like was really the ones she wanted. Make sure you follow them on LinkedIn, and then make sure you're paying attention to when their webinars are. You're commenting like, and good comments, not just like, oh, I liked this post. That doesn't do anything. LinkedIn
Right.
doesn't reward you for that, right? It's actually some well thought out post you can reshare. And now people are starting to realize, oh, I've seen this name come up. Oh, actually, like this person actually has some good stuff to say. It's, again, you don't have to spend a
Mhm.
ton of time on this, but it really goes far, and it's just really important. I mean, like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that when I talk to job candidates and they say to me, "Oh, I looked on the company's website and I noticed that you have this drug in the pipeline," or "I know the CEO just spoke at this conference."
Yes.
When you talk to candidates and it's evident that they truly did their homework on the company, that's like the best.
Yeah, I know. Hello. Good
It's
job,
the
everyone.
best.
You
Okay.
get to the front of the line.
I'm still here. I'm just trying to get my power cord. Hold on.
Oh, no
I'm still
worries.
here. Sorry.
See how we roll? This is good. I like this. This is real.
Okay.
This is
All
real
right.
life.
All right.
I'm gonna.
Sorry, guys.
I'll take it over.
Okay.
No, it's good. So, I'm thinking like, how are we mastering our job search? Is getting yourself out there, getting your why. What do you do for people? Narrowing down, job titles so you're really becoming visible. You can turn on open to work, whether or not it's in your face or behind the scenes, but you got to do something. You have to let people know. You have to talk about it. You have to stand strong about it. Now, something that I wanted, God, we have like 2 minutes, but let's just do it. Mindset. A lot of people are frustrated. Some people have been looking for 6, 7, 8 months. I know, and we've seen it here in the chat. How do we get through that? How is it a different day every single day? What do you coach people on?
Yeah, listen, I just want to say to everyone on this call that that's currently looking for a job, I absolutely understand what you're going through. Like I said earlier, I was at a company for 18 years, a company that I thought I was going to retire in. When I got laid off, I felt like my whole world came crumbling down.
Mhm.
And I was able to get back up. And now looking back, it's the best thing that could have happened to me. It was such a blessing in disguise. And I took my job search where every day is a new day, every day has possibilities. I made sure to take care of my mental health. I made sure to take care of my emotional health. I leaned on my family for support. I was not hard on myself. I realized I'm only one person and can only do so much. The job search is like this, right? There's highs
Mhm.
and there's lows. You're going to have really good days and you're going to have bad days where you're like, I just want to cry in a pillow and go to sleep. But every day is a new day and you only need one yes. So
Yep.
just don't give up. Keep at it, keep networking. You will eventually find a job. It's a tough market right now. The job market, I've been recruiting long enough to know it's cyclical. These things always turn around.
Yep.
Lean on your family, lean on your friends, and just give yourself some grace and compassion.
100%. Love that. Giving me the chills in the comments. Cause again, I know we're coming at time here, is you guys can also trust in the universe. You can manifest this stuff. I'm going to put you on a 45-day challenge. Put yes if you're going to do it, and come up with what you want. And like, so for example, if I'm looking for a job, I'm saying like, people love me. People want to hire me. I'm going to find my dream job. I'm going to write that 3 times in the morning. I'm going to write that 6 times during the day. And I'm going to write that 9 times at night before I go to bed. And I'm going to do that for 45 days. And I'm telling you, you trust yourself, you trust the universe. I love it. It's worked for me when I was going through some, I was about to cuss. I'm not cussing. I was going through some stuff, a few years back, and it works. Okay. Like, try it. Trust yourself, trust the universe. Please. I'm loving that I'm seeing yeses. Thank you all so much. We had been going through with the QR code here. If you need my help, you need Melissa's help. Melissa
Reach
is
out.
incredible. She's amazing. As you hear her here,
As
you
are
hear the
you.
passion. You have the passion. This is amazing. We are going to do number 3. I'm already putting her on blast. I'm not even asking Melissa. I want to share screen. I'm desperate to share screen because I want you to see some of this stuff in action on how you appear. And I think this is really going to help. Last thoughts?
Just huge thank you to everyone for joining. And Brianna, you are the best.
So are you. Love it. Thank you, everyone. Have an
Thanks,
amazing day.
everyone.